The silence that fell over the celestial nexus, the most exclusive restaurant in the Orion diplomatic zone, was so dense it seemed to have physical weight. Conversation stopped mid-sentence, eating utensils froze in midair, and dozens of eyes from a multitude of species fixated on the small space between the anti-gravity tables. Lyra, the 10-year-old daughter of Empress Zaralia of Zelthoria, trembled visibly, her slender blue leg ending in a metal prosthetic that gleamed under the stellar crystal chandeliers, wobbled as she extended her three-fingered hand toward Marcus Reed, the only human waiter in the establishment. The trio of Andromedan musicians had just begun a soft, improvised melody when the young Zelthorian princess felt the sudden urge to invite someone to dance. The impulse had come without warning, a spontaneous desire unfamiliar to her species, known across 7 galaxies for their calculated precision. Control your offspring, Empress. Director Vexus's voice sliced through the silence, her tentacled head quivering with indignation. This behavior is entirely inappropriate for an establishment of our caliber. Empress Zerelia, ruler of 8 star systems and one of the most powerful beings in the Galactic Consortium, swallowed hard. The bioluminescent patterns across her green skin dimmed slightly with embarrassment. This was the first time she had brought Lyra to dine in public since the asteroid collision that had partially severed her daughter's leg 2 Earth years earlier. The Zelthorian healing technologies, advanced as they were, had limitations even the Empress couldn't overcome. Lyra be seated. The order came low but firm, her melodic voice carrying the weight of imperial command. Marcus remained motionless, his gaze shifting between the restaurant director, the Empress, and the child. In his 5 years working at the Celestial Nexus, he had learned to make himself practically invisible, especially to clients like Empress Zarelia, whose interplanetary foundation had once swiftly rejected a proposal for a cross-species community project he had helped establish. Director Vexus, my shift has concluded. His voice was calm as he removed his pristine white formal jacket. To everyone's surprise, he smiled at Lyra and took her outstretched hand. Can't really dance properly in formal attire, can we? Empress Zaralia rose abruptly, her 7-foot frame imposing even among the diverse clientele. The royal crown of Zelthoria, made of metals unknown to Earth science, caught the light from the artificial stars embedded in the ceiling. What exactly do you think you're doing? Her voice was glacial, accustomed to immediate compliance. Marcus met her gaze steadily, his dark eyes unintimidated by her stature or status. I'm accepting an invitation, Your Eminence. Before anyone could intervene, Lyra took a hesitant step forward, her prosthetic foot scraped painfully against the floor, the experimental biomechanical joint whirring in protest. But Marcus didn't attempt to guide her. Instead, he adjusted his own rhythm to hers. He'll be ejected from the station by morning, whispered a 4-armed Proximan diplomat to his dining companion. Empress Zarelia watched, frozen in place. A sudden memory struck her. Thalys, her departed consort, dancing with Lyra before the accident. It's about connection, he had said, his words echoing across time and space. As Marcus followed Lyra's awkward steps, the fear in the young princess's eyes gave way to intense concentration. The embarrassment transformed into shy pride. For the first time since the accident, she wasn't being guided, she was leading. Your Eminence? Director Vexus's voice interrupted the moment. I assure you this will never happen again. Empress Zeralia didn't respond. The smile on Lyra's face, however, was the only sound that echoed in her mind. Marcus guided the girl back to the table after 3 careful dance steps. Thank you for the invitation, Princess, he said formally. It was an honor. As he turned to leave, Empress Zerelia stopped him. Wait. Her voice sounded different, less imperial and more curious. What is your full designation, Marcus? Read your eminence. Empress Zerelia nodded slowly. Marcus Reed, she repeated, then extracted a hexagonal communication device from her royal robe and extended it. My private chamber tomorrow at the 10th Earth hour. The entire restaurant held its collective breath. Marcus accepted the device without displaying emotion, but his hand trembled slightly. Mother? Lara recalled as he walked away. Why did you do that? The question hung in the air. Empress Zeralia looked at her daughter and for a brief moment saw a complete being whose desires and needs she had systematically ignored while focusing on imperial matters. As dinner continued, no one noticed the quiet determination in Marcus's departure, contrasting with the storm forming in Empress Zerelia's multifaceted eyes. The royal diplomatic suite in the Orion Zone gleamed with metals unknown to Earth science. Marcus Reed felt out of place in his best civilian clothes, a simple charcoal suit that betrayed his human origins in this interstellar environment. Marcus Reed to see Empress Zerelia, he said to the Zelthorian attendant at the reception. 18th level. Attendant Korvik will escort you. The receptionist replied, eyeing the human with barely disguised curiosity. Marcus took a deep breath. It wasn't fear he felt, but a quiet determination. The elevator, powered by anti-gravity technology, made no sound as it ascended through the luxury accommodation tower. Korvik, a middle-aged Zelthorian male with deeper green skin tones than the Empress, led the way. Her eminence is in a subspace communication. Please follow me. As they walked through hallways lined with holographic art from a dozen worlds, Marcus felt a strange sense of displacement. A human being escorted through the corridors of alien royalty was an uncommon sight. She dismissed you from your position, didn't she? Korvik asked suddenly as they reached a waiting area. It happens powerful clients make a call, and species like yours lose their livelihood. Workers who don't understand their place in the cosmic order. Marcus smiled, without humor. And where exactly would that place be? Before Korvik could respond, his communication device chimed. She will see you now. Empress Zerelia's chamber occupied half the floor. Through floor-to-ceiling transparent panels, the space station and the stars beyond appeared to be her personal domain. Your Eminence? Marcus greeted with a slight bow. Empress Zerelia turned, her ceremonial robes replaced by more practical attire that still screamed of wealth and alien design. Mr. Reed, thank you for accepting my invitation. She gestured to a chair clearly designed for human physiology, which told Marcus she had prepared for this meeting. The silence that followed was calculated. Do you have formal education, training, university credentials? Empresselia asked. Marcus maintained steady eye contact. Degree in xenopsychology from Oxford Interstellar and an incomplete master's in adaptive movement therapies for multi-ECS application. Something passed across the Empress's face, and yet you work as a server in a restaurant. I maintain 3 occupations: the restaurant, a charitable organization, and as a counselor for the Interspecies Adaptation Center. Empress Zerelia picked up a data crystal. I conducted research on you. I wanted to understand who was the person who, she hesitated, danced with my daughter. She activated the crystal, projecting images of a community center called Universal Steps that Marcus had co-founded. Marcus sat more erect. I established it with my brother Travis. It's a movement program for children with physical disabilities across multiple species. Empress Zerelia scrolled through documents which is about to close due to lack of funding. Marcus showed no surprise. I didn't come here to request financial assistance. Then why did you come? Because you invited me. Empress Zerelia laughed softly. Fair enough. She stood, her impressive height accentuated by the panoramic view of stars behind her. I want you to work for me. Marcus blinked. As a server in your private residence. The Empress's face hardened. As a therapeutic companion for Lyra. Her daughter's name seemed difficult for her to pronounce, and Marcus noticed her eyes drift to a holographic image, a smiling Zelthorian male holding an infant with brilliant blue skin. I have the finest specialists in 17 solar systems, Empress Zorelia continued. But what you did yesterday? She paused. It was the first time I've seen her smile since the accident. The admission seemed painful. I don't want a dance partner for my daughter. I want someone who can do what you did. Follow, not lead. Marcus studied the woman behind the Empress. Behind the powerful ruler, he saw a desperate and lost mother. I can pay you 5 times what you currently earn. Marcus stood. No. Empress Zoralia appeared shocked. No, I don't work for those who see only my species or social status before my competence, he explained. And I don't work for anyone who tries to purchase solutions to emotional problems, especially after your foundation reviewed and discarded my methodologies 3 years ago. The Empress's face flushed a deeper green. Marcus had come prepared. You're refusing an offer that would resolve your financial difficulties out of pride, out of dignity, Marcus corrected. And because your daughter deserves better than someone hired to pretend to care. He walked to the door, then paused. Lyra doesn't need more specialists. She needs space to lead her own life. You don't know my daughter. No, Marcus agreed. But I know beings like her, beings whose physical limitations are nothing compared to the invisible cages we build around them. He removed a small card from his pocket and placed it on the table. Universal Steps holds sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the 4th Earth Hour. If you want to bring Lyra, the first session is complimentary. Adi, as Marcus left, he passed Korvik, who had obviously been listening. You just refused an offer from Empress Zoralia, he whispered. Are you insane? Marcus smiled. Perhaps, but I'd rather be insane than be anyone's property. On the following Wednesday, Marcus was at the reception desk of the community center when Travis came running in, his lab coat flapping behind him. There's a Zelthorian royal transport docked outside, he whispered nervously, and you won't believe who's inside. Through the window, Marcus saw the sleek vessel. Lyra sat in the passenger compartment while Empress Zoralia remained in the pilot's seat. She won't come inside, Travis predicted. Beings like her don't visit places like this. Marcus smiled. Don't underestimate a determined daughter. As they watched, the ship's door opened. Lyra descended. Then, to their surprise, Empress Zoralia followed. She looked out of place in her attempt at casual attire, which still screamed of privilege by galactic standards. I told you she would come, Marcus murmured. Travis's eyes widened. What did you do? Marcus didn't answer, but his eyes gleamed. In his apartment was a datapad filled with notes about children like Lyra and rulers like Empress Zoralia. Years of observation, research, and a plan that had begun with a dance. Empress Zoralia didn't know that Marcus Reed wasn't just a waiter. He was a man with a mission, and her empire of isolation was about to face its greatest challenge. Universal Steps operated in a repurposed cargo bay donated by the station administration. Hand-drawn posters from a dozen worlds decorated the walls. When Empress Zoralia and Lyra entered, children with various mobility devices were practicing movements under careful supervision. Your Eminence, Marcus approached. Welcome. Lyra observed the other children with wonder. Many of different species she had never been allowed to interact with. It appears chaotic, Empress Zeralia commented, eyeing the diverse group with apprehension. Their structure, Marcus responded, just not one you'd recognize. He turned to Lyra. Would you like to participate? The young princess nodded. Go ahead, Empress Zeralia said tensely. I'll remain right here. As Marcus guided Lyra to join the others, Travis offered a chair to the Empress. The first day is always the most challenging, he commented. For the parents, that is, xenoneurologist, specialist in neuroplasticity, retired from the Galactic Science Academy. Dr. Solstice greeted the children, before noticing Empress Zeralia. Your Eminence, you rejected my research proposal 3 times. Dr. Solstice, I didn't expect to find you here, Empress Zeralia responded. I oversee the research program, she explained. Empress Zeralia frowned. I was under the impression this was merely a community dance class. Marcus returned. Universal Steps is a pilot program for motor rehabilitation based on autonomy of movement, he explained. We integrate adaptive dance with neurological principles. Why do you work as a server if you lead a research program? Empress Zeralia asked. Because we still lack adequate funding, and because people like you rejected us 3 times. The realization dawned. You were Dr. Solstice's assistant. Dr. Solstice corrected her. Marcus has an incomplete master's because he had to leave his studies to care for his family. But his theoretical work is groundbreaking. He was my principal researcher on the proposals your foundation dismissed. You knew who I was at the restaurant, Empress Zeralia asked. From the moment you entered, Marcus confirmed. And when Lyra stood to dance, I saw an opportunity to demonstrate rather than just explain. Was it staged? The dance? Absolutely not. Lyra chose to stand. I chose to follow. A group of journalists from various worlds entered, and Empress Zeralia immediately tensed. What is this? Part 2 of the plan, Marcus smiled. Travis showed the Empress a recently published article. Revolutionary rehabilitation methodology shows promising results across species. We published our first findings today, Dr. Solstice explained, and invited the press. You used my daughter for a public relations maneuver, Empress Zeralia said, her voice pure ice. Marcus led her to a side room, filled with holographs of children from a dozen species. On the far wall was an empty projection. What is that? She asked. Our future, the complete rehabilitation center we could build. 500 children annually instead of 50. You orchestrated all of this, Empress Zeralia murmured. The dance, the meeting, bringing me here on press day. I saw an opportunity 4 months ago when you canceled our meeting. I promised myself I would fight for this. Marcus, Travis interrupted. It's Lyra. They rushed back. Lyra was in the center of the room, surrounded by other children. Someone had turned off the music. The princess had removed one of her prosthetics and was attempting to balance on a single support. Lyra! Empress Zeralia moved forward, but Marcus held her back. Wait, he whispered. Watch. Lyra took a deep breath, focused, and then to everyone's astonishment, took a complete step with. It was small, trembling, but entirely her own. The children applauded, and camera flashes captured the moment. Empress Zeralia's face, usually composed, now displayed raw emotion, tears glistening in her multifaceted eyes. This is why we created Universal Steps, Marcus said softly. It's not about perfect steps, it's about the first steps taken on one's own. Empress Zeralia observed her daughter not as a problem to solve, but as a complete being discovering her own strength. This could have been accomplished without manipulating me, she said. It could have been if you had answered our calls or read our proposals 3 times. The reporters noticed Empress Zeralia. Lyra, oblivious to the politics unfolding, continued practicing. Empress Zeralia found herself in unfamiliar territory. Her gaze alternated between her smiling daughter and the waiting journalists. Humility was not a virtue in her vocabulary, but seeing Lyra's transformation, something within her began to yield. The orchestra of power and privilege she was accustomed to now played a different melody. "Your Eminence," a reporter approached, "would you comment on your presence at Universal Steps? Is it true your foundation rejected funding for this program?" Empress Zeralia looked at Lyra. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. "Do you know what's most difficult for someone in my position?" She addressed the reporter, admitting when we were wrong. An astonished silence filled the room. The Zelthorian Royal Foundation is pleased to announce its commitment to fully fund Universal Steps for the next 5 Earth years and to build a permanent rehabilitation center based on the methodology developed by Dr. Solstice and Mr. Reed. Camera flashes exploded. Travis let out a cry of surprise. "With one condition," she added, watching Marcus tense, "that Mr. Reed maintain complete autonomy over the program and its methodology without corporate or royal interference." She continued, looking directly at Marcus, because, clearly, the true leadership here lies in following. 3 months later, construction drones were clearing the space for the new Universal Steps Rehabilitation Center. It wasn't the most luxurious project in the Orion Zone, but it was the most innovative, designed with input from children and families across 17 species. Marcus supervised the construction frequently. Lyra visited regularly, and to the surprise of the staff, Empress Zeralia appeared as well, observing quietly from the periphery. "I never thought you'd actually attend the council meetings," Marcus commented one day. "I never thought I'd be studying xeneuroplasticity at 350 Earth years of age," Empress Zeralia replied, rubbing her tired eyes. A scientific journal marked with notes lay before her, yet here we are. Marcus looked at her. "Is this part of your public penance, or do you genuinely care?" Lyra asked to remove her second. Her previous therapist said that would be impossible for at least 2 more years. Marcus smiled. "But you dismissed that therapist, remember? Because you told me she was wrong." Empress Zeralia pointed to a holograph of Lyra balancing with a single support device. And she was. "Lyra is progressing faster than any traditional medical prediction. Why did you never accept my apology?" Empress Zeralia asked suddenly. "Because you never apologized. You redirected resources, changed policies, funded our program. That's not an apology, it's compensation." Empress Zeralia nodded slowly. "Fair observation." At the inauguration ceremony 6 months later, the contrast with the night at the restaurant couldn't have been greater. The enormous adapted space was filled with children from dozens of worlds. In the center, Lyra, now using only a lightweight exoskeletal support, led a choreographed routine. Her movements flowed with confidence. Empress Zeralia watched from a distance. "She no longer needs your reassurance," Marcus said. "No," Empress Zeralia agreed, "but she still needs me nearby." A crucial distinction. Empress Celia turned to him. "Thank you," she said. "For what exactly?" "For teaching me to follow." "A reporter approached your eminence. How do you feel seeing your daughter's progress?" Empress Zeralia looked at Lyra, who was helping a younger Proximan child. When an empress learns from a waiter, when a mother follows her daughter's steps, the most profound revolutions don't begin with grand manifestos or imperial fortunes. They begin when someone has the courage to take an authentic first step and another person has the wisdom to follow. Marcus stood at the observation deck of the new Universal Step Central facility, watching the stars. Empress Aurelia joined him, no longer wearing her crown during these visits. The Andromedan delegation has requested we open a facility in their home system, she said. Apparently, their ruling council has a daughter with a similar condition to Lyra's. Marcus nodded. Travis is already designing the adaptations for their gravity conditions. It's strange. Empress Aurelia amused. For 3 centuries, I've conquered star systems, negotiated peace treaties, and built an empire. Yet nothing has brought me the satisfaction of watching my daughter teach another child to balance. Power and control are overrated, Marcus replied. The hardest strength to develop is knowing when to let go. Is that what you planned all along? To teach an old empress new tricks? Marcus laughed. I planned to help children dance. Everything else was just cosmic serendipity. Serendipity? Empress Aurelia repeated the unfamiliar human word. I prefer to think of it as destiny. Below them in the main hall, Lyra was demonstrating a new movement technique to children from 12 different species. Her prosthetic, now more an accessory than a necessity, gleamed with personalized decorations. She had added herself. She wants to study xenoneuroplasticity. Empress Aurelia said to follow in Dr. Solstice's path. Are you disappointed she doesn't want to rule the empire? Empress Aurelia's lips curved into a smile. On the contrary, she's found a different way to lead, by helping others find their own strength. Perhaps that's a more powerful legacy than conquest. As they watched Lyra guide a small Vega child through their first independent steps, Marcus realized the dance that had begun in a restaurant had never really ended. It had simply expanded, encompassing more partners, more movements, more possibilities. And in the grand cosmic ballroom, sometimes the most revolutionary act was simply having the courage to follow someone else's lead. By the way, Empress Aurelia said I never properly apologized. Marcus turned to her surprised. I'm sorry, she said, the words clearly unfamiliar on her royal tongue. Not for rejecting your proposal or for my behavior at the restaurant. I'm sorry for not seeing the person behind the uniform, for assuming my way was the only way, and for building a cage around my daughter while thinking I was protecting her. Marcus, just Zelia when we're here. Zarelia, he repeated, extending his hand in the human gesture of friendship. After a moment's hesitation, she took it, her 3-fingered green hand contrasting with his 5-fingered brown one. You know, on Zalthoria, this would be considered an inter-species diplomatic incident. Good thing we're not on Zalthoria, then, Marcus replied with a smile. Good thing indeed, she agreed, watching her daughter twirl under the light of 1,000 stars, finally dancing to her own rhythm in a universe that had learned to follow her lead. Like and subscribe if you liked it.